As it was promised before, we now go to managing of manual test cases. What we can do? The manual test cases are being managed in a test cases section, and in order to create a test case, we need to actually create some additional information or provide the meta information from the very beginning. Let's say I want to work in features and stories, and I will be creating a new test case related to authentication feature for microservice authentication, and the story will be authentication using the password and username, and username for us will be email in this case. And let's create. So I will just add some additional feature, authentication. Now I want to provide additional information like story that will be built in authentication. And inside this story, I will create a new test case which will test successful authentication with username and password. So we created a test case. It's currently in the structure of feature authentication, story built-in authentication, and it's called successful authentication with username and password. So what we can do now, and you can see it was created in a draft state, which is only labeled showing us that this test case is currently being worked on, and we probably are not ready to use it in our pipelines, in our test run. So we need to provide some additional information because it's quite empty. You can see that it fields only feature and story. The owner is currently admin because the admin just created this test case and it was automatically assigned to this particular test case. Now we need to provide some additional information in the description section, because I think that information on that this case must be tested with not only username and password, but the valid username and valid password, which will be important information for a person who will be actually executing and passing this test in the steps. And then we create the scenario. What we can do, we can use the keywords here that will be bold in our steps. Let's start with opening a web page that will be arranged. Open the main page. Then when I need to go to a particular place where I need to enter the credentials, so proceed to authentication section or click log on, for example. Or log in. Then the next step, I need to enter the credentials. So that will be action in our test. Enter the credentials. And then I either can provide this additional information on credentials using the attachments feature, like here. Attach text. Text will be named as username, and we provide the username inside this attachment that will be email@email.com. Done. So you can see we can provide additional information as attachment. We can also provide additional information as pictures or tables whatsoever, and we will show that in next steps. If I do not want to use attachments for some reason, I just can use sub steps, press tab and enter the username. And enter the password. Username will be name, so name at company.com. then password will be valid password. Something like that. Then we need to click login button. That will be probably additional action in our test. Act. Oh, sorry, need square bracket. Click login, and the next step for us will be checking if the login information was correct and the authentication was successful. So that will be assess. Login is successful. And what are the criteria for successful login for us? For example, we need to see the avatar in lower left corner. Let's just provide additional information on that and create a screenshot in the user menu. So we need to say a person that will be checking the successful login that this information needs to be checked. So the person will check it and say avatar is present, and we add this information from our clipboard. So people will understand that this information needs to be present. And another one, the list of project is available. And submit this information. So that was all that we need to check in the scope of our test. And what else we can do here? For example, I want to say that it's critical. So this test is critical for us. Then I'm going to use this test in smoke testing. So based on the text, I will be able to filter out the tests related to the smoke tests. That will be enough for now. And let's say I want to check, and not check, but I want to link this particular test to a feature developed by a developer. And let's say, yes, so built-in authentication. So AD13 is the feature that is currently being developed by some person from development team, and I want to say that this particular feature is now covered by my test. So I want to create a link, so that will be Jira server AD13. We collect this information from Jira site, submit, and now this test case will be linked to this particular Jira issue. So if we open it like this, then you can see that there is successful authentication with username and password in a draft state. So person that is currently developing this feature will be able to see that there is a test case testing this feature, end-to-end test in this particular case. And if you want to see what's happening inside this test, you just go deeper in the test and you can see all the steps, all the information related to this particular test case. So you don't need to go from Jira site at all. You don't need to go Allure TestOps, but you just need to have an account there. Back and just one. Now I want to provide some additional information related to my test cases. For example, I want to add information about the microservice. That will be custom field microservice, and there is no microservice I need to add, but I will add authentication. So new custom field value will be created, and this test will be added to this particular microservice. So based on the information that we provided from the user interface, we will be able to see that this information is currently used for grouping. If we want to see the microservices that we created in our system, you can see billing repository and again authentication. Cool. The information can be used for grouping, for searching, and for narrowing down the searching in the widgets, which we'll be discussing a little bit later. So what now? We created a test case. We provided additional information. We linked to a Jira issue. What now? Now some person must be responsible for reviewing that, and we need to show this person that this case is ready for review. Let's say it's in a review state. Someone comes to the system, creates a filter, and wants to see if there are some test cases that this particular person needs to review. So we create a filter, and we can see that this particular test case is ready for review. The person studies the test case and says okay, and this person could be, for example, an analytic, and analytic says okay, this test case is ready to be used in our pipelines, in our launches, and actually I will set its status to the active one. So that's it. We created a test case, and now we can execute it. Actually, we could execute it even earlier in any of the statuses here, but now we have all the rights because we created this case, analytic checked it, they say cool, it can be used. Now let's execute it. We select all the test cases related to authentication and run it. The same again, the same information that we provided for automated test cases we can provide to manual test cases during the run. So we can provide information about the links, issues, environment. So if we want to dedicate this particular run to checking of this particular feature, we can clearly say that, and let's say I want to use the information about the feature that will be AD13, and we check in this information at least in one launch. Executing, launch has been created, information about the feature that we are testing is provided to a launch, and now we can see there's one test in progress state and we need to check it. We go inside the tree, we can see this particular test, we see that there is no assignee. We can either assign ourselves like admin, or we can assign a particular person registered in the system. But I won't do that. I will just start passing the test, and after the first step the test has been assigned to myself. Now I need to go steps one by one. I'm checking the password, checking the validity of the password, and I'm clicking login, whatsoever, blah blah blah. Now if I have some additional information, some, let's say that was trouble, I can provide again some information like screenshot to my test result, copy, and I'm providing this information to this particular step, let's say. So information is added to this step, and I can actually pass all the previous steps and making the test green. And now I'm making a decision whether this particular test case, this test result is successfully passed or it's failed. So even all the steps were green, I still can say that this test is failed due to some reason that I can provide additional details. So, but currently I'm just passing successfully, the test is passed, and we can close the launch. After we close the launch, for automated test cases, that was the trigger for generation of the test result or test cases, to test documentation or live documentation. And for all the tests, for example here for manual tests, it also starts considering the test results in the statistics. So basically everything that is related to our test cases, you can see this manual just one test, and it's considered here and it's calculated here. And after we close the launch, the status of the test now is being added to overall statistics of our product.